begins with a boy named Chris who was dead and placed in a coffin. There was no blood left in his body. The people who lived around the village saw the holes around the neck on the boy and thought that it must be the work of a vampire which would bite him to death. The villagers think that all this grievance happened because of a girl named Sooha, and they also doubted all the strange things that happened after the girl came to this village. A fire broke at Chris' home few days before, and now he has been dead. So the villagers confirmed the rumor about the girl was true. A flashback begins where Chris sees the girl Sooha sitting under the tree, and Chris went to her and talked to her, and he asked her, "Are you a vampire?" She was shocked upon his question, and he asked her that he can't see her in the daylight. He introduced himself as Chris to her and asked her name, but she said, "Humph," and give a rough face to him. And when she tried to say a name to him, then quickly he said, "Your name is Sooha, and I knew it already. You are already famous in the village. They said that you are a vampire who moved here." She replied that she isn't a vampire. Chris asks, "Sooha, everyone in the village says you are bounced around cities and you are not visible in the daylight, walking around late night alone and eating pigeons." Sooha face turn anger and reply, "Absolutely not," Chris agreed. On Sooha reply and believed her. Then he said her to make the villagers to believe her. But how many times she tried hard to make the villagers to believe, they didn't believe her, and also she worries that if they did not understand her and started to hate her more. In her memories, her parents said not to use her superhuman abilities in front of them. If you use abilities, then they will misunderstood and think of you as a vampire. To avoid an uncircumstantial instance, she ignored the people and lived alone. By listening to her speech, Chris said, "I don't think you are a vampire because I'm born with limp. If you think you are different from others, then you are just afraid of them." The people who surround us always gossip about every simple matter. I once heard a gossip from somebody that my parents regretted giving birth to me, and I was scared because it may be true, but I faced the problem now. I am not scared now. I know that my parents surely loved me. So we should not worry about the talks of people around us. He asked Sooha to be his friend. Sooha agreed, and two of them became friends. Before that, the both did not have any friends. Both enjoyed the time together and had fun by laughing, playing, and viewing the beautiful sceneries together. Sooha showed her superhuman abilities to Chris. He looked amazed after seeing her ability. She asked him that you are not afraid of my ability and think I might be a vampire. He replied, "Absolutely not. I trust you," but she worried that she might be one. To make her comfortable, he asked her to bite his neck. Her face turned into shock and asked him, "What nonsense are you talking about? What if something goes wrong?" He said, "Now you don't have to do it. When you totally believe in my trust in you and believe in yourself, then you should promise me to bite my neck." By hearing his words, she became happy and thinks, "Meeting you was the best thing that happened in my life. Having someone who trusts me more than I trust myself is the blessing that simply cannot happen in everyone's life. I enjoyed every second with you, and I look forward to seeing you in the future." She asked him to go to see a firework festival which is happening next week. She also said, "Every time you came and approached me, but now it's my time to come to you. I will visit your village and we will enjoy our splendid time together around your village." After a week, Sooha goes to Chris's village to enjoy the fireworks together with the Chris. When she visited him, she saw the fire in the Chris house. She worried what happened to Chris, so she rushed towards the house and saw Chris' house with a face full of shock. She turns to know that Chris was stuck up inside the house, and Sooha started to shout, "Chris! Chris!" The people are standing near Chris's house. Sooha tried to enter the house, but the villagers stopped her and said, "You can't get into the house because we already got later." The house ceiling started to collapse down. "If you try to get in this time, it may turn dangerous to you." But Sooha refused the villagers' words and thought about Chris, who should be rescued from the fire. At the time, Sooha thinks if she used superhuman ability, they might misunderstood and think of her as a vampire. But she didn't care about anyone and did not let their words to her. She used her ability in front of them to save Chris from the fire and falling roof ceiling of the house, and she entered into house and she carried heavy weight of roof ceiling concrete from falling by using her superhuman ability. Chris saw Sooha standing in front of her carrying heavy weight, and with a mild voice he said, "You came to save me. Someone such a kind-hearted person surely cannot be a vampire." Sooha replied, "Until now, I thought there was only a misfortune in my life, but those misfortunes are the steps to meet you. I learned the true value of friendship because of you. Chris and I will never lose such a precious friend like you." After a glimpse, Chris was dead by being struck in a wood in his chest and placed in a coffin. After a few years went by, there was a school show, but they did not have new students in a while, and a teacher showed a way to new student. She asked her name. She replied, "It's Sooha, now she has grown up and went to Decelis Academy." The teacher said to Sooha, "In deference to our founder spirit, our school is operating as night school. The classes start at 9 p.m. You may get confused at first, but soon get used to it." Then Sooha replied, "Okay." She also said there were no more rooms left in the new dormitory, but there is one in the old dormitory. It used before, now it seems messy. Sooha seems okay with it. She strictly said to Sooha never to go outside after the sunset. You should stay inside for your own safety. There is a murder happened recently, and many of them thinks that it must be the vampire. Our school security is more strict and tight, so you won't run into any vampires inside the school grounds. But it is dangerous outside of the school. After parting ways with the teacher, she runs into a boy in the corridor. He looks so handsome with resemble of Christian, and he pierced in his ear. They accidentally crashed each other, and he said sorry and walked forward. She also walked towards her room along with his teacher. Upon walking, they turned back and saw each other. After that, the teacher showed her a room which is located far from the other room. She was sorry about that and said, "As soon as there is a vacancy, we will fill that for you." Sooha seems to like the room. Then the teacher asked her to enter the room and take a rest. Then Sooha entered the room. The room looks so messy, but she looks so excited instead of worry because she gets a room in best school in Riverfield. She did not worry about the dust. She casually said, "If there is dust, we need to clean it up." That's all. The reason for her happiness is because the school is strict for vampires. No vampires can enter here. She reminded herself of this fact as she settled into her new school, relieved that she no longer needed to hide or constantly relocate, free from the fear of being mistaken for a vampire. But then, as she tidied her room, the memory of Chris's last words echoed in her mind. Such a kind-hearted person can't be a vampire. Those words, full of trust and reassurance, seemed impossible to find in anyone else's eyes. Lost in her thoughts, she mustered her superhuman strength to lift the bed. At that very moment, the handsome men she had met earlier entered the room. Their eyes met. He said to Sooha that he, searching for a book, spoke up. Sooha, caught off guard, blurted out, "I'm not a vampire." She quickly realized how peculiar her statement must have sounded. Desperate to clarify, she continued, "I know you probably won't believe me, considering what you just witnessed, but it's not what you think. Please, don't jump to conclusions and think I might be a vampire." Overwhelmed by the fear of her abilities being exposed, tears welled up in her eyes. The handsome man, however, surprised her with his response. He said, "I trust you. This school has strict rules against vampires. They can't enter here, and I can see how distressed you are." His words were like a soothing balm to Sooha's anxious heart. She felt a rush of gratitude and thanked him for his understanding, reiterating her desire to avoid being mistaken for a vampire. As Chapter 1 came to a close, Sooha's anger simmered. She declared with frustration, "There is no one who hates vampires more than I do." The chapter left readers eager to delve deeper into Sooha's world, her unique circumstances, and her interactions with these intriguing characters. Chapter 2 actually begins with Sooha and Heli continuing the conversation that they started in Chapter 1. Back then, we ended with Sooha expressing her hatred towards vampires, and with Heli silently acknowledge this information. In this new chapter, the conversation on the very same notes. Sooha shared her thoughts to him that she got super excited about her transfer to Decelis Academy, and she won't get mistaken for a vampire either since there were no vampires in this school. And he accepted that, yeah, you're absolutely correct, there were no vampires. I can understand how hard you were faced. Sooha replied that there's no way I can put that into words. She was mistaken for a vampire countless times with others, and she tried very hard to prove herself because of those stupid vampires. She worried a lot about that to him. Sooha said that her parents had mentioned that before her birth, there were no vampires. It was a world filled with mythical creatures that only existed in novels. But now, she don't know why things have changed, and she worries about it a lot. After a while, she get to know that he came here to retrieve his book, and Sooha told him that she would assist in searching for the book. Because Sooha made him wait so long to share her flashback story, he told her it was okay and he would retrieve it himself. However, she searched for the book on his behalf and eventually found it, asking if this was the correct one. After looking into the book, she got exhilarated because that book looks like ancient. Sooha asked him, "Will you read this kind of book?" He replied that he had a habit of reading ancient olden books and had a vast collection. Sooha got surprised and mentioned that she also has reading hobbies, especially since she didn't have many friends at school, so she always loves to read books. And she told about Chris, the only best friend ever in her life. Sooha commented that people generally didn't read many books these days, and she had never seen someone read as voraciously as he did. She then asked him what this particular book was about. Meanwhile, he replied to Sooha that the book contained a collection of old stories. She thought once should read this book later on, and after their conversation went smoothly, she apologized to him for making him wait so long because someone talked to her and was being treated like a normal person. He also felt happy to spend time with her. And he got the book, and thanks to Sooha, and he started to move away from her. However, once he had distanced himself from Sooha, she realized that she still didn't know his name. Determined to meet him again, she devised a plan. After a while, he also thought about using a chance to make her as a friend, so again he came to meet Sooha and he messed up again. When he saw Sooha again, he mustered the courage to ask her name. She responded gently, "What? You ask for my name? It's Sooha. I'm Sooha." He couldn't help but admire her name and paid her a compliment, saying that her name was quite pretty. This exchange left a warm impression on both of them, and it marked the beginning of a potentially beautiful friendship, as well as he also asking Sooha that she wanted to know his name. Sooha brimmed with excitement and said, "Of course I do. I really want to know." It was curious for her to know his name. He gently made a smile and introduced himself as Heli, revealing that he was a 12th grade student at Decelis Academy. Heli took a step closer to Sooha and proposed, "Let's be friends." To this offer, Sooha readily accepted. Their connection deepened as they embarked on this new journey of friendship, bonding over their shared interests and experiences at Decelis Academy. After a day, Heli was walking in the corridor. His friend Gino was calling Heli and conveying that they were looking for him and they really head out without him. Heli was sorry about that and opened up to Gino that he was talking to a new student. We finally get to meet the rest of the gang, and the first two members that we meet are actually Gino and Cheyenne. Now right off the bat, we get the sense that the two of them are kind of the social butterflies of the group. After talking about a new student from Heli, one of Heli's friends says that he had already heard about the news of the one just transferred. Heli replied, "She's in the old dormitory they always used to hang out in." After hearing this, Gino felt that old room storage was uncomfortable to stay in. How did she stay there? And the conversation was going on with them and said that the place looked nice and it was at a corner where the sunshine doesn't enter during daytime also. Heli said that we have a chance to go there only if we make a friend with Sooha. Their social plan, however, is immediately interrupted by Cheyenne. Cheyenne is always best at making friends with others very easily. The interesting thing, however, is that this conversation is actually taking place in their mind because before the speech bubbles were black, Now they are color-coded according to the member who is communicating with telepathy. You can see, in the story, Heli, Gino, and Shion very friendly with the humans. Meanwhile, Solon didn't have the idea to make friendship with a human and was actually very distrustful of his peers. And Solon asked with Heli. "What did you talk to her about?" he inquired. Heli candidly replied to Solon, explaining that he had introduced himself and asked Sooha if she wanted to be friends. This response triggered Solon's anger, and he was apprehensive about allowing them to socialize with others, especially a human. Heli knows very well of Solon what he was worried about, but Heli tries to convince Solon that she was not like other girls, something different from others also similar to us, not yet exactly the same one. Because other vampires cannot enter into Decelis Academy. Solon acknowledged this fact, saying that there were no more vampires apart from them. Heli affirmed, "Yes, you're right, we're the only 7 vampires left." Nevertheless, he couldn't deny the inexplicable attraction he felt towards Sooha, a feeling that was drawn to her for some reason. Shion thought that Heli might have a crush on her. Solon kept a statement that vampires don't feel emotional points to connect between being friends with humans, the way humans do, and even if they did, they actually shouldn't. This is something that Jan agrees with as well, because in his opinion, befriending Sooha might actually cause more troubles than what it seems so when the conversation ends. And coming to the end of Chapter 2 conclusion, Solon says out loud to stay away from the new girl and wouldn't, you know it, the new girl is right behind him to hear him, and she gets shocked. Chapter 3 begins with the second chapter Heli's wish to befriend with Sooha. Solon banned him from interacting with girl, so in the last installment, the chapter ended with Sooha overhearing this conversation by mistake. Solon's words obviously hurt Sooha, and in this new chapter, we actually discover that people have been treating her all her life in the very same way. Sooha started fighting with them, and she told her past flashback story that she always outcast how the people will always mock her, judge her, and hate her. And Sooha had to deal with this hard situation ever since she could remember. And she thought her arrival at the Decelis Academy would mark the beginning of a brand new start. But she didn't expect the same thing happening to her. Now she felt really wanted to get alone this time. But Shion felt that they was completely wrong. He changed his mind to the point that he's encouraging the girl to ignore what Solon just said. Despite Solon's growing irritation, moreover, the other boys are incredibly welcoming towards Sooha and introducing themselves one by one. Now Sooha feeling relaxed, and she started to interaction with them. Gino said to Sooha that Shion's always makes trouble, so keep your distance from him, and finally, he also introduced himself as Gino and asked her to become her friend. Sooha also accepted happily, and finally, Jan also joined with her, and he said, "Don't mind what Solon discussed about the topic." However, they never agree with Solon points. They considered it their duty as humans to be nice to a new student. But Sooha felt that Solon definitely hates her. This is the first time for the boys who welcomed a girl like this, and they all look so cold. Heli thought of giving a small tour around the Decelis Academy campus, and he called Sooha to come with him. Sooha was equally thrilled about the idea of going on a tour. However, Heli, as previously discussed, chooses to begin their excursion with a visit to the library, a decision that filled Sooha with joy when she heard it. Excitement welled up within her as they headed to the library. Noticing their plan, Shion expressed her eagerness to join them as well, eager to be a part of this intellectual and exploratory journey. And finally, they all fixed to go together, but Heli said that Solon doesn't want to join with them because of that misunderstood moment happens. But Gino convinced them and planned to go with everyone together. Firstly, they went to the library. After seeing the library, Sooha looked so excited and she asked with Heli, "Where's that book that he reads?" He replied that it was a really old one, and if she wants to read that book, she should get special permission to borrow it. Heli assured Sooha that he would share the story from the book with her once he had finished reading it. Sooha graciously accepted his offer and felt a sense of gratitude towards him for being willing to do so. After a while ago, Shion started to guide the place about that classrooms, Available depends coupons, the grade level, and Shion said that he's also studying the same 10th grade with Sooha and will be a classmate. However, there were distinctions within their group. Jan and Gino were in the 11th grade while Heli was in the 12th grade. She was surprised to hear that everyone in their gang was in different grade levels. However, she also noticed the strong camaraderie and close friendship that existed among them, which was indeed quite impressive. And Heli revealed that they grew up with together. But Sooha thought they all may not be brothers, and she asked about it. He replied that they all grew up at the same orphanage and they all don't have parents. Heli friends got angry and asked him, "Why did you tell her?" By the way, Heli took it upon himself to introduce the other two vampires within their group, Jaka and Noah. They were renowned as the most competitive nightball players on the team, and their reputation preceded them. As the campus tour group eventually reached the nightball field, it became apparent that Jaka and Noah were preparing for an upcoming game. It was at this juncture that the true extent of their vampire powers came to light. Jaka unleashed a powerful shot that came dangerously close to striking Sooha, almost putting her life in peril. Fortunately, Jan, with his own superpower, intervened just in time, intercepting the ball before it could harm Sooha. In a show of solidarity, Gino and Shion shielded her with their bodies. However, what truly stood out was Heli's reaction. His protective gesture quickly transformed into a comforting hug. This unexpected display of intimacy overwhelmed Sooha, pushing her emotional and social boundaries to the limit. And she saw those superpower ability with her eyes, and she got panic after those incidents happened, and Sooha gratitude them for their campus tour, nervousness and thought to move. When Sooha eventually returned to her room, she encountered Solon waiting for her. This marked a pivotal moment in the story, as Solon, driven by unknown motivations, cornered Sooha, seemingly to intimidate her. The episode ended with an air of tension and uncertainty, leaving readers eager to unravel the mysteries that lay ahead.